Please join me in welcoming Mr. Larry Bonner.
See, I was sitting out there in the seat just like you just a few years ago. I can remember that. Only thing about it, we didn't have any tablets, any computers. Clouds were Stratus, Cirrus, Cumulus. We didn't have any clouds to send our information to. It was totally different. Sitting out there trying to figure what would it be like once I got an opportunity to be an engineer. That was my dream at the time. So who's the smart guy out here? Who's the smartest engineer? Oh, you? You the smartest engineer? Who's the smart engineer? Who's the one that blows the curves? So you guys are all normal people. You're like me. Because I remember when I was in there was always this one guy or girl in the class that would get the 4.0 and blow the curve, and we'd all be sitting there like, give us a little break, because we need a little mercy there so that the curve dropped down, we'd all be right there. There's always that one person, so got a good group here, all regular people. So what's it like on the inside? How did you get there? I'll talk about how I got there and what did it take, some of the things it took. Overview of my career, I'm now working with Progress Energy, and this is a Duke Energy company. We just went through a merger, and we'll talk about that in just a second. I'll talk to you also about who I am, where I'm from. I'll talk about my career, and I'll talk to you about 3 principles. I'll leave you with 3 principles that I think will give you some perspective as you move toward graduation and look for your next career, because you'll find that it's different here than it'll be out there. You're getting prepared now, but there'll be many more challenges you have to deal with. So I'll share some things with you that should help you as you transition over. Progress Energy is we're the largest utility in the country at this point. I don't know if you guys have been following mergers and acquisitions and things of that nature, but we just merged with Duke Energy out of Charlotte, North Carolina. Our headquarters is in Charlotte, North Carolina. So this is now Duke Energy, and if you look at this, we have, we're in Indiana, we're in Kentucky, we're in Ohio, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Florida. So we're in 6 states now. We have 7.1 million customers. So we're the largest utility in the United States. See if I can get your clicker working. There we go. All right, if you look at our market capitalization, which means the size of our company at any given time, when you look at the number of stocks we have out and the number of shares of stocks we have out and the value of those stocks, you combine a company that's worth $31 billion with a company worth $18 billion, and we're a $49 billion company. Operating revenues of $14.5 billion and $8.9 billion from Progress Energy, which is $23.4 billion overall. And number of employees, you see we're very close to 30,000 employees across 6 states. Okay, let's try this again. Okay, size of our territory, 104,000 square miles. Total generating capacity is 49,600 megawatts. A lot of generating capacity. I mean, electric customers, 7.1 million customers, again, across those 6 states. And in Florida, we have 1.6 million customers. So we were previously the 2nd largest investor-owned utility in Florida. Now, combined with Duke Energy, we're the largest in the country. We have gas customers. We don't have any in Florida, but we have 500,000 gas customers. Okay. So having said that, I'll talk about what's been going on over the last 18 months. We've been going through a merger over the last 18 months, and that merger has resulted in a new way of doing things. And this is something that, as you go through your career, when you change over and you start working professionally, there'll be many changes that you'll go through. As a matter of fact, it seems like about every 3-4 years, a change will come. When I left to come down here from Niagara Mohawk, they were going through a merger at that time, and I came down to this company who had just recently gone through a merger, and now we're going through another merger, and here it is just 10 years later. So as we've gone through this merger over the last 18 months, it's been pretty interesting. I've been going between operations and engineering. We have some people we send off to an integration team to determine what's the best way to do things, what are the best practices, how should we restructure our organization. And while they were doing that, we still had to keep the business going because you did want your lights on, right? You wanted to fire your computers up and see them come on, correct? Okay, so that's what we've been doing the last 18 months. But during that time, it's been extremely challenging for the workforce. And as a leader, whenever you decide to go into leadership, Your job will be to make sure that everyone is taken care of. And that's very difficult when people are going through challenges, trying to understand, will I have a job? Where will my job be? How much will I get paid? And they have things going on in their personal lives. That's been extremely challenging over the last 18 months. So we're getting closer to the end now, and we're starting to staff our organization. In fact, I was in a meeting all day yesterday, last 2 days really, looking at staffing our new organization. So hopefully the stress will start to calm down as we find out where we're going to go, how we're going to do things going forward. Now I'll talk to you about who I am. And I was born in Washington, D.C., as you were told earlier. Washington, D.C., it looks like I have somebody back there from the area. All right, there you go, Washington, D.C., and my dream at the time was to play basketball. So all I wanted to do was I wanted to play basketball. Now, I did my grades, don't get me wrong. I was academically on point, but my dream was to play basketball. So my hobbies were basketball, chess. I played chess, and there's a guy I met named Mr. Buck, and he taught me the game of chess. Very good game. I was third best in our junior high school, and we competed against people in high schools. Our team was that good, and I ended up, again, being the third best in my high school. I was the best chess player we had. Also sang. I did that as well. I was involved in electronics. Loved electronics. So in electronics, I got into building walkie-talkies, and I love communication. So does anybody know what a ham radio operator is? Okay, I got a few people out here. So for those of you who don't, I'll give you an assignment today, because I know you got PDAs, computers, tablets, and all that stuff. Look up ham radio or amateur radio. Also look up Morse code. It's a dying language. We don't use it much anymore, but we had to learn that in order to be an amateur radio operator. Upon graduating from high school, I was the most versatile in my high school. So that's one of the things I did. I left and I went on to Niagara Mohawk. I left North Carolina, went to Niagara Mohawk in Syracuse, New York, and I started out in standards. Now, when you leave and you decide to go professional, you may think you know what you want to do, and some of you may actually know. But I wasn't 100% sure. I had some ideas about things I wanted to do, but as it turned out, I had pretty good writing skills. And I landed in a standards job. And in the standards job, I ended up interacting with people from the outside, vendors, contractors that would come in all the time. So it was about relationships, building relationships, buying products, because everything I did in standards was multiplied many times over. So in other words, if you bought a widget and you put it on the system and that was a bad widget, it was a lemon, everybody got a lemon and they were looking at you. So that was a very challenging thing to do. But it taught me a lot about the importance of quality up front. I had relationships that I built with the vendors to come in, and you're always going to have problems. So having good relationships enabled me to work through those problems with the vendors that came in. So standards was my first assignment, my first job there. I did that for a while, and then I became a lead in standards. So leadership then emerged as something I was involved in. I got involved in leadership with standards and went on to get a special assignment with United Way. In my special assignment with the United Way, we raised more money that year than we ever raised, and we got more contributions from some of the organizations that typically hadn't contributed. But I was involved with 30 different accounts. And all 30 of those accounts gave me an opportunity to interact with more people. And I started thinking, wow, I'm doing this engineering thing. And I mean, this was tough. Coming in out of school, after having gone through engineering, playing basketball, I said, let me see what something else would be like to do something else. And I got involved with another part of the business because I got another opportunity. And I got a chance to be leading people who were in the bargaining unit. So I was over design engineering. And over design engineering, I did that for about 3 years, and then I got an opportunity at Progress Energy. And I came down to Progress Energy, and I worked over reliability programs as I had a chance to work myself into the organization. Then I got an opportunity in operations. We had a chance to work through Francis, Jean, Charlie, all the storms. We had a chance to work through all those storms over those years back in 2004. Anybody remember the storms, 2004? Very, very challenging time. Long days, short nights, a lot of work. That was a lot of challenge. Also went over to vegetation management. Vegetation management was something that came out after, I think, about 2005, when there was a hurricane down south. Lost a lot of poles, a lot of damage. And so the Public Service Commission mandated that we need to get a handle on how to harden our system for hurricanes. one aspect of that was vegetation management. So we had to set up and establish a program, a way of managing our vegetation so that tree power line conflicts would be minimized. And that was one of the programs I set up and staffed throughout the Florida area, and we had to manage the vegetation. It was very challenging. That is extremely difficult because, as you know, if you have two or several variables and one unknown, you can solve a problem. When you have multiple variables, that becomes very difficult, and that's what it was like dealing with vegetation. But it was another opportunity to do something different in the organization and learn from other people and learn how they do things as well. After vegetation management, I got a special assignment doing switching and tagging, which was about safety. It's when we switch 12,000 volts. When we go out and switch our system, we reconfigure our system because we're building things, maintaining things. There's a procedure and protocol to make sure we're safe. I was involved in doing that as well. And then I went on to do an engineering assignment when we were going through the merger. And now, most recently, I was promoted to Director of Engineering and Construction Planning. So my new role in the new organization will be back in engineering. So it gave me an opportunity to do several different things, in the organization, which professionally, it's a journey. It's a journey. And as you've seen, as we've come through this journey, I didn't do one specific thing for a very long time. That gave me a chance to learn different aspects of the business because everything is changing. People want things quicker, faster, cheaper, and we need to be safer. So all of these different opportunities gave me a chance to grow. And what you're going to learn as engineers, you're going to learn that you have the skills to be able to process, to be able to study and figure things out. Those are skills that will enable you to do practically anything that you want to do. And that's what I've found in my career. I'll talk to you about 3 principles. Having gone through my career and where I'm from, let's talk to you about some principles that you can live by. Passion, people, and persistence. Again, I repeat, passion, people, and persistence. Why are you here? What drives you? What is your dream? What is your passion? I'll share with you a proverb. There's an old African sage. He was wise and influential. He lived on the side of the mountain near a lake. One day he noticed a young African warrior walking up the hill and stood erect before the stage. "What can I do for you?" the old man said. The young man walked up the hill and stood erect before the stage, and he said, I was told by those in the village that you are wise. They said that you can give me the secret to happiness and success. The old man listened, then gazed at the ground for several moments. He rose to his feet, took the boy by the hand, and led him down the path back to the lake. Not a word was spoken. The young warrior was obviously bewildered, but did not stop. Out of the water, the old man led the boy. Farther they walked, the higher the water advanced. The water rose the boy's knees to his waist, then up to his chin. But the old man said nothing and kept moving deeper and deeper. Finally, the lad was completely submerged. At this point, the wise man stopped for a moment, turned around at the boy, and led him out of the lake and back up the hill to the hut. Still not a spoken word. The old man sat again in his creaky chair and rocked to and fro. After several thought-provoking minutes, he looked into the boy's questioning eyes and asked, "Young man, when you were in the lake underwater, what was your desire?" Openly excited, the boy replied, "Why, you old fool, I wanted to breathe." Then the sage looked and spoke these words, "When, son, you have found happiness and success in life, where you want happiness and success in life as badly as you wanted to breathe, you will have found the secret." That is passion. When I learned what my passion was, many years ago, I had a conversation one Sunday morning with my cousin, and we were talking about engineering. He talked to me about engineering because I wanted to be an electronic technician. That was my goal, to be an electronic technician. I wanted to play basketball. Those were my 2 goals. I wanted to have an option to play basketball and to be an engineer. But at the time, I thought I wanted to be a technician. And he told me, he said, technicians work for engineers. So why go for the peanuts when you can go for the gusto? He said, now, if you decide you want to play basketball and major in engineering, it will be hard. It will be difficult. You won't be able to hang out like everybody else. You won't be able to do some of the things that everybody else does, but you can do it. And that was one that I decided at that point, I wanted to play basketball, and I wanted to major in engineering. And I was looking for a school that would enable me to do that. Now I'll talk to you about an individual that I met when I was looking to get my scholarship. Clarence Big House Gaines. Anybody know who Clarence Big House Gaines is? Because that's assignment number 2. Clarence Big House Gaines. Now I'll give you a hint. This was a he's in the Hall of Fame for basketball. This man is very well established. Everybody knew who he was. But I had a chance to meet him and talk about a scholarship. And I'll tell you, my passion to play basketball and engineering was so great. I think back now when I was 18 and try to understand why was I so focused. I don't understand now, but this is the conversation we had. I met him at Langley Golf Course in Washington, D.C. We sat down to talk, and I said, sir, can you tell me about your EE program at your school? Because I want to play basketball and major in electrical engineering. He said, well, son, we have a great PE program. I said, sir, well, I want to major in EE. So do you have a way of going to another university and taking classes and coming back to the university and getting credit at this university? He said, well, son, we have a great PE program. I said, sir, well, I want to major in electrical engineering. He said, well, we have a great PE program. And I said, well, thank you, sir. I really appreciate your time. And that was an opportunity that I didn't get at that university because I wanted to be an electrical engineer. Fortunately, I got an opportunity at North Carolina A&T State University. When they said I could play basketball and they said I could major in electrical engineering, that was a school that I wanted to attend. As a leader, you have great passion. Great leaders have great passion for what they want to do. They may not necessarily be the smartest. They may not have the best grades, but it says, Maxwell says, a leader with great passion and few skills always outperforms a leader with great skills and no passion. So whatever you do, whatever you decide you want, you've got to figure out what is your passion? What do you want to do more than anything? I can remember growing up when I was sitting in church just thinking about basketball. My mind had drifted. I was on the court playing. What do you want to do? What do you do and think about all day, every day? That may be your passion. That's what you have to consider. Next is people. People is always going to be about the relationship. Always going to be about the relationship. Okay, there's tablets, there's pads. I know you guys are on social media. Everybody here is on social media, right? Most of you guys, some of you know what that is, right? Okay. Social media. So everybody's on social media, but it's always going to be about the relationship because I've never seen an interview where you just tweet it in. I'm interested in a job and this is how I do it. You sit down and you have a conversation. You have a conversation. And during that conversation with the person that's considering hiring you or the panel that's considering hiring you, they're going to be looking at you, how you interact with them. They're going to be looking at your credentials. And they're going to be asking you questions, talking about things. There may be behavioral-based interviews. There's other types of interviews out there. But the point is, you will be interacting with a person. There'll be no texting for your interview. There'll be no tweeting. There'll be no posting on your Facebook for your interview. So it'll be about the relationship. It'll be about the relationship that you build with your peers, your comrades, the opportunity that you get. I can't tell you how many times in my career when I interacted with people that were buying things from, that we were buying things from, the vendors would come in, they would say, hey, Larry, do you know somebody that is good in this? Or we need another salesperson. Do you know somebody that we can use in this particular area? A lot of times those relationships matter, and that's what determines whether or not you'll get an opportunity in another place. It's all about the relationship. Yes, there's ways of communicating. As I told you, I communicate with ham radio. There's appropriate time for texting. There's appropriate time for tweeting, but it always will be about the relationships that you build. Even the relationships that you guys have in this room as peers, it will be about the relationship at the end of the day. People may forget what you do. They may forget what you say, but at the end of the day, they will never forget how you make them feel. So again, it's always going to be about the relationship, the power of networking. Now, I'll tell you, when I did my summer internship in Syracuse, New York, I met a gentleman, by the way, his name was Marshall Nelson. This guy was a very impressive guy. I'm like family to him. I called him recently. He's in his 70s now. But here's a guy who hired me onto the company, and we had a relationship over the years. He would advise me, because once you leave, and again, you start your career, somebody will need to advise you. You need to have a mentor, somebody can help you get through and transition into the professional world. that relationship is going to be very important. It will always be about the relationship. Even in my professional career, I was solving a problem, and I met a gentleman out in Colorado just over the phone, and then we met down here in Florida at a conference. That relationship resulted in an opportunity. When I called him, he said, send me your resume, and now the opportunity resulted in me being here today. I talked to him about a week ago. He is now retired and doing very well. He's back out in Colorado. But again, the relationship, friend for life. So relationships a lot of times help you solve problems. They help you deal with situations. In fact, one very important relationship, and we'll get into engineering, is Thomas Edison. Thomas Edison had a relationship with Lewis Latimer. After over 1,000 failures trying to invent a light bulb, Lewis Latimer brought in the solution. That relationship resulted in something that's transformed our lives today, lights. And so no matter what you do, it'll be about the relationship that you establish. Persistence. We'll talk about persistence. The heights by great men reached and kept were not attained by sudden flight, but they, while their companions slept, were toiling upwards in the night. Over 10,000 hours people put in to master their craft. You see, you've got to work hard. No matter what you do, you've got to work hard. We say, when I coach, we say, hard work beats talent when talent refuses to work hard. There's a book called Outliers where they talk about 10,000 hours. There's a certain threshold of 10,000 hours. And when you put in your time, you look at the people who have excelled, who've done well. You look at the Bill Gates. You look at the Steve Jobs. You look at even the Michael Jordan. Those people work tirelessly on their craft. They don't just wake up in the morning and say, I'm extremely brilliant or I'm extremely skilled and go out and do what they do. They work very hard, and they've suffered setbacks and disappointments. But regardless, they are persistent in the pursuit of their goal. Now, I'll share with you a situation that I encountered when coming through wanting to play basketball, because it wasn't always where I was on the top. You know, I wasn't always a college caliber player starting out young. So when I wanted to pursue my goal, I started out and they said, you have to get off of your local playground and go somewhere else and play and get experience playing against different players. So that's what I did. I left and went down to where the school I played at junior high school. I went on the playground. A lot of these guys would come down every day and they would practice and they would play together and work on their game. And they were pretty good players. So that's why I wanted to go down and play with them. So I started out playing. I got picked. That was a great thing because sometimes you can sit on the side and wait for it seemed like hours. But I got picked to play. And when I went up, I was tall, skinny, grabbed the rebound, I came down. And when I got the rebound, there was a guy that came over and just took the ball from me. And he looked at me like, I dare you to try to take it back. And as we went through the game, I played, nothing went right, nothing. And when I left the game, somebody said, I think this is the same guy, said, big boy, you are sorry. You will never be a basketball player. You're nothing. And I remember walking away, I had my head down, and I started crying. I was hurt. Because what I wanted to do, it got taken away from me right then and there. So I had my head down, I walked on my way home, and somebody saw me, and I think they said, look, you just crushed him. And he said, you're going to be all right, you're going to be all right. But at that point, it was too late. He had already crushed me. So I wanted to pursue my goal. So in order for me to pursue my goal, I went out for the junior high school team. I got cut. I practiced, I worked out with some other teams, I worked the clock, I stayed around basketball, I didn't give up. Then I heard if you go out to the high school during the summer, the coach will see you, you may get an opportunity. So I went out, I got cut. So when I came that year, for my 10th grade year, I had a chance to go out for the JV team, or the varsity, I got cut, and I made the JV team, so made a little progress. 11th grade year, I made the varsity, 12th grade year, made the varsity, and got more playing time. Then I got a scholarship. Working in college, I got bigger, I got stronger. Wouldn't you know, after all that time, my parents moved. When I went away to college, my parents moved, and they moved right down there behind the school I went to junior high school. So I went back up to the playground, and when I came back, I went to work out, and the same guys were hanging out. So I remember the first time I got picked again, and I went up when I came down with the ball this time, I came down with authority. And when he went to reach, I stepped, cleared out. Nobody wanted to take the ball. And I played through the rest of the game. I came down, I made my shots. played defense or block shots. And at the end of all of that, I went up and with a thunderous dunk, I tried to tear it down. At that point, first person that came up to me was that guy. He said, "Big boy, what's up?" He said, welcome back. Where you been?" And at that point, that provided confirmation to me that I had achieved something. Because had I given up, that was my opportunity. That was my ticket out to major in electrical engineering and to play basketball. That was my dream. That was what I was passionate about. And had I given up then when I lost as a skinny young kid, I would have never had the opportunity that I eventually had. You cannot give up. You must persist. In fact, I learned from Og Mandino, Scroll Mark III, in The Greatest Salesman in the World. I will persist until I succeed. I was not delivered into this world in defeat, nor does failure course in my vein. I am a lion, and I refuse to walk, talk, or sleep with the sheep. The slaughterhouse of failure is not my destiny. I will persist until I succeed. I committed things to memory because you've got to persist. When it's tough, when it's difficult, when the classes, you can't figure out the formulas, you can't figure out all the Maxwellian equations, all the things. I know you guys are still doing Maxwell's equations. You probably have computers to do that now. You've got to persist until you succeed. So it will always be about how you persist. Passion, people, and persistence. What is your passion? I challenge you guys to go out and figure what your passion is. What do you want to do more than anything? And how are you managing your relationships? Are you working on teams and classes? Because you will be working on teams. In the professional environment, you will always have to work on teams. You will always work with people, contractors, and other folks to get a common goal achieved. When you look when they send the rockets to the moon, it's a team of folks to do that. It's not one very smart astronaut that goes up there, checks out the shuttle and says, "Hey guys, I'm heading to the moon for a few days." It doesn't work that way. It's a team of folks that organize and put things together. They do the mechanical, the electrical, all the other, the computers, everything else comes together. And when they take off, that's a collaborative effort. So it will always be about that teamwork. So it'll be about the relationships that you have. That's very important. Nothing in the world can take the place of persistence. So how persistent are you in reaching your goal? Lastly, I'll talk about, for our company here, this is our culture. This is our culture. We focus on safety. We act with integrity. We excel in the core mission of serving customers. We be outstanding financial and environmental stewards, and we cultivate diversity and inclusion. We treat everyone with respect, honesty, and fairness. Hold each other to high standards and collaborate, adapt, and improve continuously. Why is that important? Let me dispel a few myths for you, okay? When you get hired, you will not get promoted after your first assignment. Does that surprise anybody? You will not do one assignment and get promoted. However, you can identify yourself as a high achiever and have opportunities within the organization. You will not get 4 weeks of vacation after your first day. You won't show up and say, "Hey, boss, I'm taking vacation for the next 4 weeks. Will see you then." You will work and earn your vacation. You can do that once you show up for work. And you will not receive advance pay for showing up. So you can't show up and say, "Boss, I need an advance for the next 6 months of my pay because I'm thinking about going to Europe." That doesn't work either, okay? You'll earn your pay. I'm just keeping it real, giving you a perspective from the inside. These are things that you'll have to do once you get inside of a professional career. These are things you're going to do. And why is that important? That is important because there's a culture that we have in Progress Energy. We're looking for a few good engineers. Through this transition, we're going to have some opportunities. And we're looking for folks that can work on the team. We're looking for folks that can focus on safety, that can act with integrity, and that can excel in the core mission of serving our customers. These are characteristics. This is the culture of our organization. And we'll be looking for a few good engineers. So when we talk about passion, we talk about persistence, we talk about people, these are things and opportunities that if you have these things and you do well, there may be opportunities outside in our particular organization. So right now I challenge all of you, to be the best that you can be, and hopefully there'll be some opportunities for some of you guys, if not in our organization, in some organization out there. Thank you.
Outside of going to class and meeting people through there, how would you go about networking?
One of the ways that you could go about networking is there's opportunities to volunteer. There's social events. I mean, I've seen that now in school for students. There's a lot of social, I guess, community activities. There's blood drives. There's things where you go out and do community service and help other people in the community, things of that nature. You'll find that even United Way, when I had an opportunity, a special assignment to go on the United Way, I took that assignment and they told me, we're not promising you anything in the organization, because some people go and you get promoted. I took the assignment and I said, I'm going to give it all I have. I'm going to give you my best. I'll expect nothing, but if something comes out of it, then that's great too. I enjoyed the assignment. That assignment exposed me to people at various other organizations throughout, Onondaga County, which is where I live in Syracuse. I got a chance to meet some very high-powered people, because every year there are people that are committed, organizations and corporations that are committed to, helping the community out. And when they help out the community, you have a chance, if you're involved and you're helping, to interact with those folks. That may be your next job opportunity. Meeting people, networking. That may be an opportunity for you to get to know someone who says, hey, I like that young lady. She's really good working with people. She's very aggressive, very assertive out here. She's very committed. That's the kind of person I want in my organization, because just like playing basketball, everybody wants to win. Everybody wants to have a good team. So if you show that you have the behaviors and the characteristics that will help that particular team win, then perhaps that gives you another opportunity. So that's just one way to improve your networks.
Seems like you have a lot of training in energy management. How would you describe leadership in sustainable energy?
I'm sorry, how do I describe leadership?
Leadership in sustainable energy.
In sustainable?
Energy.
You're talking about in terms of the utility business? One of the things we have to do, we have to figure, again, how to do things better, cheaper, and faster. So a lot of it has to deal with processes, also determining what are our threats out here, what are the, how can we improve our efficiency. And when I talk about threats, there's fuel cells, there's solar, there's wind. You hear about those things, but determining, are they viable options for us or to serve our customers cost effectively or not? And so we have to look and evaluate all those things. We also have to look at different kinds of equipment and how can those things help us to provide better service to our customers. One of the things we're looking at right now is what's called smart grid. Smart grid, and there's a lot of variations of it, and one variation has IP addressable devices in your homes. So when you look at that and you look at how much, you'll know how much energy you're using within your home or what devices is driving your cost. Those are things that we have to do to better serve our customers. That way we'll know if we have a certain amount of load and we need to shed load, we may be able to ping a certain device and cause it to reduce the amount of load at that time. That way we can better manage our costs and how efficiently we serve customers. So it's an ongoing challenge. There are a lot of, we have to look at opportunities and ways to provide power, again, cheaper and more efficiently. Right. Yes, ma'am. I think it's a personal preference, for one. I worked about 10 years, I think, before I went back to get my MBA. But what I saw is I was very heavy technically. And so I did consider finances, but I didn't regard the finances as important as I probably could have or should have. I saw this as a way of enhancing what I would do and also broadening my career. If you are extremely bright and you want to stay on the technical side of the house, I mean, there's still going to be some economics and things of that nature. I'm sure the training has for if you want the engineering side of the house. But if you want to get into research, you want to get into other parts of engineering that are very, heavy on the technical side, I'd say stay on that side of the house. But in the business side, the training that you have right now enables you to go into multiple different areas. You can take engineering. I have a friend that paired it with legal. You can pair it with business. You can pair it with sales. You can pair it with medical. You can take the training that you have right now and do practically anything in the world you want to do. And so I found, at least for me, that the business side enabled me to go more into leadership. And that's able to affect a greater change in the organization and to work with people, more in working with people. Some people don't have people skills, and some people prefer to work, in technical things. So it's always an option. But I think business only enhances what you already have technically.
When you meet more powerful people while networking, what do you make sure that you take away from them or ask them?
I typically deal with the person first, and one thing I learned in ham radio is when you engage in a conversation, there's something about you that's interesting to me, there's something about me that may be interesting to you, or there's something about both of us that we have a mutual interest in. And when you find that, then the conversation can occur, can go on infinitum. A lot of times I'll look for, what does that person have that, of course, you got to be genuine about it. I feel you have to be genuine, but what does that person have that's of interest to me or they may help me? So let's just say if I'm involved and I'm an engineer, but this person is a financial person and I'm struggling with solving a problem or I need help in financial, then that may be what I'll need, and that'll be a contact for that. In fact, when I was preparing to come here today, I had another friend that she's in a leadership role. She helped me to prepare and just asked me some questions about how I was preparing for this particular event today and the presentation and the information I was going to share with you. So that helped me. I was able to bounce things off of her to get my ideas and perspectives in order. So when I meet a friend or I meet someone, I look at what are their strengths or what opportunities do I have to help them as well. Yeah.
Is there something that you would do differently at the start of your career if you could?
I don't think so. Because I told you, my dream is to play basketball and major in engineering. And the one thing I wanted to do after I graduated college, to have the option to go engineering or to play basketball professionally. It didn't happen that I had the opportunity to play basketball professionally. I could have probably gone and played, some of the other leagues, the minor leagues or whatever, or maybe gone across the seas. I could have pursued that. But at that point, I understood, see, I can use this much longer than I can use this, because I'm done. If I was playing basketball, I'm done. All I can do now is coach. So I'm happy with how things turned out, because everything I pursued, I was persistent. I was relentless. One of the more challenging things was getting my PE, but I refused to back off. And so I'm very happy with the things that I pursued, living my dream.
First impressions. What are the qualities you notice when trying to make a first impression on someone, like in an interview or something?
I think body language, engagement. If I'm talking to you and you're looking down, looking around, that doesn't send a good sign. How you present yourself. If you come to an interview, I had a classmate. He was one of those smart guys that blew the curve in engineering. This guy would, he finished engineering. We had a tough engineering curriculum, 3.5 years. He was taking classes, blowing A's, and looked around and says, hey, I'm done. Let me graduate. Do you believe this guy showed up to his interview in a T-shirt? Now, I wasn't the smartest engineer, but I knew better than that, So those are some of the things that you look at when you meet a person for the first time. Their communication, how well they articulate, those are things that affect you. And I'm sure different people look at different things, but certainly your appearance and how you engage are things that you catch right off the bat. Yeah. Did you get a question?
Do you see the energy business as being on the bleeding edge of technology, or are you kind of really slow deployment to make sure that everything is very financially viable before advancing your technologies?
I think at this point, we can ill afford to be conservative as we've been in the past. Over the course of the years, I've seen, again, I said I was a ham radio operator. When I came in and I went, and again, I was unsure, as I'm sure many of you, if you came into an organization, you look at the org chart and somebody said, where do you want to be in this organization? You'd probably look like, wow, what do I want to do? I started out and I knew that I liked communications. So as I got, started working, I asked about communications. Would you believe that we barely talked about communications then? It's inconceivable at this point in time that you'd have a utility company or any kind of company and you wouldn't talk about communications. We now have devices out there that can read and report back how much power we're sending out. If there's an outage or whatever, we can go and download information. And as we get to a smart grid, that information will happen almost real time where we will sit in and reconfigure the system on the fly. There's all kinds of communication devices out there. As a matter of fact, from ham radio operators, there's a spectrum of the frequency. There's a frequency spectrum that is now given over to commercial. And a lot of your utilities and other organizations, commercially, they use these things. Your cell phones use part of that frequency spectrum as well. So I think that we can't be conservative anymore because it's competitive. You don't want your bill, going through the roof. So we've got to figure out how to do it better, cheaper, faster. And that's why the possibility of you guys bringing ideas to our business, to our industry. Again, if you meet the culture, that's what the prospect of that is, bringing new ideas in, because you're doing things that we weren't doing. When I was in school, we didn't have a computer. There was these cards. You put these cards in this card reader, you run out, and then we were doing Fortran. So you put C equals 1, A equals 1, B equals 2, and then C equals A plus B, and it would compute that. Nowadays, you guys got, look at this. I got 4 computers on the front row, 4 computers on the front row, a phone. You guys can do anything. You can upload pictures. We have to be competitive. We have to be cutting edge. We need to be very competitive.
I know you mentioned the 3 principles, having to work hard and networking. Is there anything else that you would look at a person to see if they could be successful?
There's a number of things that we could that you can look at. I think it's certain things. Well, those are core principles. How you communicate is important. That's very important. Of course, that kind of gets into your networking. Obviously, having an aptitude to do whatever you're doing. You can work very hard and just not have it. There's some people that just don't have it, and maybe that's the time to look at doing something different. But I think whatever it is you want to do, pursuing your passion, because that overcomes a lot of obstacles. Because whatever you do, I'm sure you guys have stayed up a few late nights, right? Probably drink some 5 hours and things of that nature. So whatever you do, you've got to, I just gave you 3 principles. I thought of 3 things that can help you be successful. But there's a lot of things you still have to do. You still have to do your engineering. You still have to, at some point, you need to know how to dress. Because when you go to your interview, don't wear the T-shirt. Don't be like my buddy who wore the T-shirt to the interview, because you probably won't get a job. They probably won't say, well, he's so smart, he doesn't know about dressing. So there's a lot of other things that you'll need to do. But I would say, for the most part, those 3 principles I gave you today are good things to focus on, and it'll give you an opportunity in other areas to be able to accomplish what you want to accomplish.
Now that you've essentially lived out your dreams, what are your goals and ambitions for the future?
Well, again, I've not lived out my dreams. It's always a journey. So it's always about constant improvement. I'm learning, and this provides I'm learning from you today, just like, hopefully you're learning something from me. It's a new challenge. We never give up. The recently getting promoted provides me with an opportunity to learn yet another skill. See, in the organization, I was at one level. We just eliminated 2 layers of management. So now we have to figure out how to make this organization work. There's new challenges with our people out there. Our people, some of them are overwhelmed. Some of them need training opportunities. Some of them need to learn the technology a little bit better. Some of them are doing well. So how do we help the people that are doing well to help the people that aren't doing well? How do we make adjustments so that everybody's successful and that we provide, that we can, keep your costs down because we're doing things efficiently? This is yet another challenge in my career. So, no, I have not given up at all, and I've not settled saying I've accomplished everything. Now it's about, just taking the next opportunity, learning and maximizing in that opportunity. I always believe, even with my special assignments, one thing you can be assured of, if you get a special assignment or whatever you're doing, if you don't do it well, you shouldn't be thinking about the next opportunity. simply because if you do an assignment and you don't do that assignment well, typically that shows what you're made of. It shows your, someone gives you a special assignment for a reason. It's an opportunity for you to move in an organization or to identify yourself as one who can, perform certain tasks or responsibilities. That gives you the opportunity when next time somebody's looking for talent, they may pick you. And so at this point for me, it's about continuously learning, continuously driving results. I mean, I coach, I do everything. I'm never bored. It's never bored with anything. So at this point, I'm doing the things that when I was sitting in your seat, I wanted to do, but I'm not done. I'm not done at all. Yeah.
When you have an assignment or a problem that you're faced with, what's the process you go through in finding the solution for it?
The way I would approach it, first of all, go in, and this is, first of all, you got to find out if you're dealing with people, who knows what the problem is. Listen, talking. This is about the relationship here. Can't get this out of email. Can't get this out of a tweet. You got to go in and talk to folks, try to understand what the problem is. And one of the things I learned in engineering school, it was rough, but one thing I learned from one of my instructors, he said, half of getting a good answer is asking a good question. So you formulate questions and you go in and you try to learn as much as you can about the situation or the problem you're confronted with. And then at that point, you step back and look at it. These are my problems. What are potential solutions? What is my plan A? What is my plan B? What are my costs? Who do I need to get involved? And here's another part about the relationships. Okay, so I got a problem with mechanical. Okay, well, who are the mechanical engineers out here that have had experience with that? In fact, I'll tell you the relationship, the guy I met out in Colorado, I was working on a project in my company where we were dealing with 35 kV splices. Now, when these things blow, they blow. We're talking manhole covers flying in the air, I mean, extremely dangerous. And so if you imagine yourself going down into a manhole working, and all of a sudden something like that explodes, you don't come out. So people were very afraid of working on going down and working on those splices. So I was tasked, since I was in standards, had to solve the problem. So I contacted a friend of mine that had a laboratory. They tested. So we sent some splices down. We had them load cycled and tested and heated. And how do you fix these things in service so that we don't cut out all that work, a lot of labor and a lot of cost. I was talking with the manufacturer. As it turned out, the manufacturer gave me a sheet of paper and he says, here, this is how you can solve your problem. Well, at that point, I said, let me just check and find out where this came from. And it just so happened that there was a name on the top of the paper of a utility, and I started calling on the phone. I just started dialing, and I located this guy. When I talked to him, I said, you know anything about this? He said, yeah, that's my paper. What are you doing with it? I said, well, somebody gave it to me. And so we started talking, and he said, I'm coming to Florida. And I said, I'm coming to Florida, and we met, and we became friends almost on the spot. And he shared some information with me, and I said, well, look, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to research this, and I'm going to send it to a lab, and I'm going to validate the results you have, and now I can use that to recommend a solution to the problem. So that's how we solve that particular problem. But I think it's about understanding what it is, and then understanding the people, the processes, or the equipment, whatever you need to solve it, and putting a plan together.
One more question.
What's the differences between Progress Energy and your other competitors like FPL?
One is culture. One is culture. I'd say, just like your university, if you left here and went to Miami, University of Miami, Florida, there'd be a different culture. You'd have classrooms, you'd have seats, you'd have electronics and all these other teaching aids and devices. But the thing is, there will be a difference in culture, the way we approach things. We all provide power. We all have customers. We all have, facilities. But at the end of the day, it will always be about the people that will make the difference. That's where, and I said to you today, it will always be about the relationship. It will always be about the relationship. It will be about the people. You make this university. The culture, your teachers, your instructors, you make this university. That's the difference in our company. And so we have a culture, and these are the kinds of behaviors that we exhibit within our organization. And so when people come in, they fit that culture, and that's how we operate. So that's the difference in our company from any other company. aside from the physical, terrain, one maybe in mountain, way down in sunny Florida, we may construct things a little differently, but it's always about the people. That's the difference.
Let's thank Mr. Bonner.
Thank you. Thank you.